start with?
So now we
Oh,
record.
now we're recording.
Yeah,
Okay.
start again.
So let's just summarize really what bolus it is. So in Latin, bolus means ball, and in medicine, it's used as a term to gather your medicine into one ball and take it at once. So you
Yeah,
take all,
it's
you know.
one
So
bottle of whiskey in the evening. It's one.
absolutely, only one. um, Depends which whiskey, I suppose. So the idea is the tank takes its medicine, the alkalinity, in one hit, in one go, and it does some magical things. When you take the alkalinity, and it has to be bicarbonate, it does some magical things,
Yeah,
which we did probably years ago, 30 years ago. We didn't really understand what, some of the dynamics of what was happening in the chemistry. But today we do. We've got alkalinity monitoring, we've got pH monitoring. We understand a lot more, I think, about the chemistry of what's going on. But the sort of journey really to discover why this works was very simple. When I started the farm, I did some very basic analysis. So I knew pH was important. So what I did was I got up at 5 o'clock in the morning and I took a clipboard and I plotted on a graph the alkalinity and the pH every hour. So I tested it every hour and I could see, didn't do any dosing of anything. And I could see that the alkalinity would get to would start to be used by about 1 p.m. So the lights were on at 9 o'clock. By 1 p.m., you could see the alkalinity was really starting to drop fast.
mhm.
And it happened to be at 8.23 pH. 8.23. So I knew that at 8.23 something magical happens, okay, with the corals. And it's nearly like all of the processes start working properly. So the photosynthetic processes, the deposition process, the calcification processes all seem to come together and work really well at 8.23. So then I was thinking, well, from 9 o'clock to 1 o'clock p.m., if I could bring that point of 8.23 closer to 9 o'clock, it would improve the efficiency of the growth. I would get double the growth maybe because they're going to be using the light a lot more. So that was my theory. So back then, of course, I was still playing with Kalkwasser and all that kind of stuff. So we were dosing the Kalkwasser up to raise the pH so that when the lights came on, you had a higher pH and everything would start to work.
Mm.
Okay. Now, of course, that works for a while until it doesn't. And then eventually you keep doing too much Kalkwasser and then it doesn't raise the pH anymore.
It
And
raises it always raises the pH, but not for a long time. That
not
was
for long, no, but
and
eventually what
the
happens is it raises the gains that you get in the pH are never as good.
yeah,
Okay, so and this is your buffer system starting to break down.
yeah, but
So
I had always another issue during that time. I during the time we had a big store and sell a lot of corals, and I see the crashing of starting of this old tank syndrome effect on so many people, which they always use the clockwater stuff there. And after latest 1.5 years, we had so much to do with Derbesia algae, Chaetomorpha algae,
mhm,
growing there. The rocks will be covered. It was a slightly gray brown dust laying around. The sand was sometimes the sand was bacon and
mhm,
and getting like a concrete, so hard it goes on.
yep,
And at the beginning, the core is raising up really well, so it was good. And the only
mhm,
guys who run the calcwater a longer time was the guys who are using the calcium reactors.
mhm,
Because in this case, what we understand now is that the calcwater stops the negative effect of the calcium reactors,
mhm,
and the calcium reactors stop the negative effect due to the high amount of CO2 coming into the water, which
mhm,
creating by the cloudwater. In this case, I said once in another video why everybody runs behind each new system, and I say Kalkwasser at the sample, and then everybody blaming me and say, "Wow, he has something against Kalkwasser." Me personally, I have nothing against every system.
Mm,
It depends only what is the effect and what I want to try to use. And when we talk each
mm,
other about that, you remember that we have both this type of feeling. It was not technical. So when we
mm,
first starting to talk about it, it was not technical. It was a kind of, you remember that we had another feeling on some chords.
mm,
So, and you telling me then, yeah, why the heck you don't do that?
mm.
So, like earlier before.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I said, "Oh, I have no argue to say no. I don't want because in fact, the way the chorus grow, they grow today with the systems. That's not the point. But
Mm,
the way they grow, this feeling I have with the chorus, the amount of shining, it's very hard to explain because it's something like esoterical, you know. So we pray to the moon, our chorus will grow. No, it was a different type of feeling and a
mm,
different type of thing. And I think that the last years, I think what I make different now that is not like that like I had before. And it was so easy and so stupid the idea that it was way too close to see it.
mm.
Yeah, I had
Yeah.
this. That's what I mean. I had the same feeling like you. I said, okay, I have this results. We work with Cloudwater versus everything over years, and yeah, in the sense, what I have to say is the sense to make Balling light was due to the specific reaction on the bicarbonate, because earlier before all that Balling stuff coming on the market, this was 94. We built a huge aquarium in a pet store, about 35,000 liters, and we had no calcium reactors, and even for calcium for Kalkwasser, it was way too big.
Mm,
So I decided to work with calcium chloride and sodium carbonate, which I put with large buckets into the 3,500 liter sump. So, and I see then later coming what we have for side effect. And due to this book and due to these friends, they telling me then to this time, oh, maybe you will use better the bicarbonate stuff like the version of the classical Balling method because it makes really sense due to pH and it was described at this time. So it's
mm.
really nothing new. It's from the 90s. Yeah, it is.
Yeah. I tell you the story. So how I got into Acropora. Okay. So uh, I remember I just started my second tank about 1992. I bought an Aquamedic halide system with T8 actinics. And do you remember the Moonlight computer that was just like a blue bulb that used to go up and down with the like to emulate the moon? You were going to spawn everything. That was
Mhm.
wishful thinking back then. And I remember I bought some live rock and I had a tub of, and I didn't know much then. I was still reading a lot about it back in 92. And I remember reading, I think it was Delbecq and Sprung.
Yep.
And nobody reads books anymore. They should read books. I remember I read that book and I didn't understand much. And so I read it again and I read it again. And then I was really hooked. And then I read Nielsen and Fossa, Modern Coral Reef Aquarium.
Yep.
That one I had to read 5 or 6 times before I really understood it. And if people did that today, I think we'd have better reefers if they read books. But anyway,
Yep.
I took a pot of tropic marine buffer, and I remember putting it into the tank, and could see this little green thing waving on the rocks. I thought, what's that? It's really bright, really bright. Every day I would come and put a spoon of this, quite a big spoon of this bicarbonate into the system. And the next day it was not one polyp, it was two polyps. And about 4 days later, it was six polyps. And it was growing like crazy. And before I knew it, I had a Velida, a little piece of Velida, beautiful color. And I really understood it was this carbonate, that bicarbonate going in, which was making this thing grow. And that's really the basis of bolus. I was never scared from that point to take a spoon and put it into the system.
Yeah.
So when I tried this in the farm, and of course my spoon was a lot bigger, I was taking boiling light. I was putting a spoon in to see what would happen. And you could see, because of course now I've got all the pH control, I've got the Profilux, and we can see the spikes in the pH and everything. Spoon goes in, pH goes up, and it stays up. Unlike Kalkwasser, which will put the pH up, but then it comes straight back down again. So this is really what led me to think about this bolus. We want to bring the pH closer to the beginning of the photo period, and we want to use the bicarb as a means of raising the pH up at the beginning of the photo period. When you do that and you get to that sort of 8.2 point at the beginning of the photo period, everything just magically takes off. That's what I found with the bolus. And so we increased the growth, I think probably 50% just by doing that. Then, of course, you play with the lights and you get a little bit more, we're trying to encourage the photosynthesis. So you want that photosynthesis, you want to raise the pH with the bolus, and then you want to really power the lights hard so that it carries on with the pH progression. And so today we can get 8.5 quite easily, just with the bolus.
But now we talk very fast, very deep, go into bolus, and you told the story that you said, okay, I dose everything in the morning in one big step. Okay. When I started my farm, it was 2006. I had a bag with the bicarb, and I have a spoon, and 3 spoon was 1 DKH in the system. And every morning, when I come in, I have a check. Oh, I've lost 1 DKH or 1.5 overnight, and I push 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 of the spoons, and that was it for the whole day.
Yeah,
I was too poor, and I have not fun to sell dosing pumps. The whole world had dosing pumps. I still keep on them. Since I had too much to do with Fauna Marin, I had to sit more in the office, and so I had some workers there. And so I decided, okay, for the workers, because they were not so disciplined to do it every morning, I decided, okay, then I will buy a dosing pump. And the first dosing pumps what we had was GHL. But at the same time, a lot of things changes, the LEDs coming, the US style we're creating there. We're starting from huge colonies to small colonies to frags. So it is not that we do only changes in these things. Yeah, it was, I must say, it was really great not to do that every day by hand, to have a dosing computer. And I think it's fully understand if we said today, or this myth is coming around, that stability is the key overall. So it is right, because
define stability.
Yeah,
that's the thing. So we've got this mythical thing called stability. What does it actually mean?
Yeah, it is mean overall. So when you talk about temperature, if you talk about calcium levels, if you talk about pH and all the things, we never look back and say, okay, what's going on with the alkalinity? Because alkalinity is our own world inside all the other chemistry things. It is so complicated and so difficult, and have so many influences in every way more than calcium, magnesium, and all the other words where we're putting around or trace elements at all. And that's why we make it more simple, with all the changes, with all the things. We said, hey, it is more simple with a computer to check. It's more simple with a dosing pump, and it opens the market. So for many people which don't like to handle with aggressive or azidized chemicals, it was way easier to them to have a bottle, to have a canister. And also there, a few years later, in around 2010, 12, some persons coming on the market and telling, you don't need a 5 liter a bucket or jugs. You need only a small bottle because we have a concentration, and you don't need to do water change. So, and this is great from the marketing side on. Say it is way more easy. You need only one bottle. You need to dose that, and everything went well. Okay, we know it's wrong, and we know it's marketing at the end, but I can fully understand why we go this way at the end to say we dose regularly, we try to get a stability. But very often is hobby, I think, we try something out, we make things, we thought we go the right way, and we have to come back and find out that the old way was the better one. And I think we hit one of these major keys for the understanding why these happen. So, and I think it was a great idea that we sit together, we do the testing over the years now to find out, okay, not only how to do it, but what is the real effect in. So that was very helpful with the lab. We could control, you know, about all the things which we talk a little bit later about the trace elements and the way we do the lighting. And I was also very thankful to all these guys from the Reefers Club, which were very helpful in testing, giving the feedback, showing all the graphs. So that's why we sit today there. It's a soft start for BOLUS. The big start will coming on the Intersoup. It's a funny thing for a company. We present something new, which is old and which is nothing which we can sell.
No new product.
It's not a product. No, it's even not that we can gain any money on it. No, it's for free. It has no paywall, so everybody can use it. Yeah, it is perfectly made for the Balling Light stuff. Doug can quite good explain a bit later why and what's the reason for it and the difference between the situation what we have actually on the market. And yeah, I'm quite like I say, I have still this slightly feeling. I don't want to tell this that I make it wrong the whole day. That I find out that oh, what the fuck I did there. It is so clear, you know. And what you don't know, yes, you know it because I tell you, we have one really large, very nice. It's one of the nicest reef tanks in the world, which has about 240,000 liters. It's about, for the US guys looking that, we are around 60,000 gallons. And it's the only official aquarium in the world who keeps sharks and corals together in an amazing quality. The shark is the best fragger which I see in my life. He produces 300 to 400 frags every day because when he's angry, he put it in. But the tank is completely covered. And what they do, and I do the work with them since the last 8 years, we do them all the ICP, we do consulting with them. We support them. I know everything what they do, included that they dose the alkalinity only every 3 days. So they do super bolus. They don't do it every day like we do in the next morning. They do every 3 days. They put alkalinity in. And you know, I know it. That's not that I forget it. I know it. And we speak every week of it. And I still had not the idea after looking that and think, oh, that's really gorgeous. It's really great. And and I had these wrong meaning. Yeah, that's my work on the ICP and that's the trace element. No, it was not. It is definitely one of the reasons for that is, sure, make a good water, take care of the water chemistry and the nutrients, and also the trace elements. That's gives a good base for the success. But I was always wondering why the tips of the Aquapurus STS looking like that fat and that size like they had, and why I cannot get it in my farm. Mines grow on the side, they grow on the buzzer plate. They grow, that was not the point, but
it's not quite right. Wasn't quite right.
Not what I have in mind. Okay, earlier times looks always better as they maybe were. So and like I say, we change a lot of things, but maybe yeah, I think we will go a little bit down to the basics how is technically work. So how
what I will say, let's just come back to stability for a second, because I think that's really key. If if somebody came to me 2 years ago and said, you know, you can achieve real stability by dosing all of your alkalinity in one hit, I'd say, okay, you're completely crazy. You're completely crazy. But it's true. So you dose this alkalinity and we get a completely flat alkalinity throughout the photo period.
Mm.
Now that's stability. And what I think is going on, what I think that is so important is we don't think of the chemistry in a reef tank properly. We should think of everything as an equilibrium. So it's constantly changing from one state to another state. And if we think about that a little more, we could see that if the less changes in that equilibrium, the better for the corals. So as long as you can stabilize that equilibrium, you're going to get better results. That's my experience. So what we're doing is when we put the bolus in, the bolus creates disruption in that equilibrium, but does it once. And after about 30 minutes, everything sorts itself out. And the rest of the day, everything is incredibly stable. And including the alkalinity stays stable. Now, that took me a long time to understand why that happens. But we can get into the details. But this is maybe changing the way we think about stability. Stability to me now is about ensuring that there is not much disruption to the equilibrium. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
That to me, I think, is why bolus works so well. You know, when you're dosing every hour, or alkalinity every hour, it has to go through some disruption every time you dose it. There has to be a readjustment. And when I started to understand that a little bit better, I could see that is maybe what is the difference between uh, really happy corals and corals that are just okay. So maybe that's the key to bolus, is just having that wonderful stable equilibrium.
It's the key for the success what we have there. And at the end, it's the key what happens in the marine chemistry and normal
Yeah,
sea. The
yeah.
CO2, the reduce into the bicarbonate,
Yeah.
bring it back to the CO2, creating the power, the energy in the sea due to the corals. Because it is really, at the end, it's a miracle about the seawater. If you look at all these thermodynamical physics, which goes so in the deep that it's not to understand at the end if you don't study that. It's really great how this solution is so stable at all, and how the nature creating this type of working that corals can work, that the seawater keeps stability on that. And the stability here is, I think, we do the mistake over the most time that we don't explain what's the difference between the carbonate, the sodium carbonate, and the sodium bicarbonate. For everybody, it's the same. So baking soda, not this and that. And in fact, it's a huge difference. Even on the effect on water when we dose it to the tank, because everybody say this brings you alkalinity. But that calc water do that, calcium reactors do that, carbonate do that, and bicarbonate do that. But we never talk about on which way and what is the long-term effect on it. Because and this is also one thing which is started very early. It started that people creating systems based on theoretical chemistry, which is based on in a glass of water without nothing else. That's why I create Boiling Light, which was really a long fight, a very long fight, and work again a little bit against the two-part method, because I said it is stupid because it's too theoretically. It has nothing to do with what happens in an aquarium, with the influence of everything which we add in, which influence of the corals which are in, and the decoration and the sand, everything. And no chemistry process will work 100% in that direction what we want. No one. So, and the next step for my thing was that the bacteria use carbonate and calcium totally different than corals do that. Even
Yep.
when you start the aquarium. So in my opinion, it could be never that you have a 1-by-1 dosing.
Yep.
We don't have the weights which are proper. We don't have the canister which shows the right amount of level, and how a private household can measure up 78.3 grams by a liter. So everything what they use is wrong, maybe plus minus 10%. And you don't calculate the humidity of the salt and everything. So I said we have to create a system which don't need that. The full bucket, use the full bucket, make it easy. That's why it calls light. You know, earlier the Marlboro lights. So it is easier to do. The better wording would be there. If I would know what I know today, I would change the name. But it was Ben the Balling easy. What was the better way to explain it? You don't need mineral salts. You don't need to take care of the ion balance. So that's why we're creating the other system. But it was made by feeling. It was made by understanding of chemistry and not looking on typical theoretical view, which is written in a book. This is okay. This is not wrong, but it's not the way to go. And if you make a mistake about a 0.5% every day, the sum over time is huge. And that's why we go there. And we never talk, it is written down, but we never talk deeply, not in forums, not in Facebook, where in the world, about the difference between the carbonate and the bicarbonate. And what we do is we talk about 2-part, 3-part, about all the things. But even there, we don't go deeper when you see from the Americans to the European situation. We never go deeper into the system and said, okay, why we do this mixture with the trace elements, which we give together. 2-part gives only the 2 parts, and then the trace elements, yeah, you can put like you want. We know since longer how are the relations since the 90s, and put the relations immediately with the dosing together. That's also why BOLUS is not only the bicarbonate at the end, so they are all the trace elements, which we give with trace 3 to increase the photosynthetic and the protection from the light. So like in trace 3 is alkalinity and building light. If you know it's trace 3, it's about iodine, it's selenium. There is a bromine in, there's fluorine in, and some other trace elements and a part of vitamins, which use the corals then for getting a better growth. I don't think about it at this time. I thought about the photosynthetic. I thought about what the corals need, what goes into the skeleton. I didn't thought why we don't dose it like we did it before. No, so
well, of course, back then you didn't have boiling light, did you? You didn't have all the trace elements back
I do
really
boiling
back in the
light
early days.
95, 96.
Yeah.
So, but it changes also over the
But then
time.
you were already on dosing pumps by then, right?
No, we don't have dosing
No,
pumps.
you didn't have them by then.
No, we
Okay.
dose by hand. So
Right.
we wanted avoiding that the people needs to take to play with powders and make it more easy for dosing. That's why we sell the powder, because why we should ship water around the world.
Exactly.
Give them an idea how to prepare the canisters, and we want to have the individual dosing effect. And the individual dosing effect was that we said you start with a certain amount of trace elements, put it into the canister to have the right relation. And if your tank needs a little bit more, you add a little bit more of the trace elements into the canister. So it was not necessary to have 6, 8, 7 dosing pumps later. It was only necessary of mainly we need only the 2. So the calcium and the carbonate, but we put all the trace elements in a relation there to get a stable level of elements and calcium and carbonate. So, and in this type of work, we come to this idea maybe, not at the beginning, because at the beginning we dose once a day, because nobody wants to give every hour by hand a small amount of the liquids. So, so very fast the people wanted to have the dosing pumps. And then the idea of stability of dosing, stability of alkalinity is coming around on this way. Even if it was written differently in the books, but it was not clear written. It was not written down, hey, don't do that because this will happen. It was only written down, if you dose bicarbonate, the pH will drop a little bit and then go up. And if you put carbonate, it's the opposite reaction. So nobody's written there. It is even written that you will have less precipitations, but it's not written down what kind of precipitations you have, how long they stay, why these lower pH is an advantage to bring the chemistry in solution into the tank, and why the carbonate dosing creating that issues for a longer time to the old tank syndrome, or like we say today, the Lars syndrome.
Lazy ass reefer.
Yeah, the lazy ass reefer syndrome. But in fact, it means that you don't clean the tank. But why you need to clean the tank? You need to clean the tank because you have a lot of precipitations down in the bottom on the surface. And then people explaining that is a detritus, or detritus in English. I don't know in
detritus, yeah.
Detritus, yeah. No, it's not. Detritus is that it's the shell of a bacteria. It's the shell of an algae shell, and if you play around in your reef tank, it will flows away. That what you have, this brown stuff, which goes up and immediately down after you're siphoning the sand or something like that. This is not detritus, it's precipitations. And they're full with elements, they're full with phosphates, they're full with everything, even full of phosphates and fluorine if you use the cutwater stuff and other elements. And what we don't know, which we know now today, but at this time we didn't know it, that particles has the physically effect to bend elements on their surfaces. How smaller they are, how more effective they are. And due to the high pH content of some liquids, this will not go back into solution.
Until there's some catastrophic event.
Yeah.
Like a low pH or something.
Yeah.
But also it gets bound in the rocks, right?
Yeah,
so all that
later.
detritus will just build up in the rocks.
This is exactly the depot which I talk about since 15 years, that we have a depot effect. The point is that the depot effect can also happen with the bulling light and also happens with the bicarb, to be fair. This is not that you don't have precipitations by dosing yours all the time. The difference is, and we just made a video to show you how big is the difference in this case, that to the low pH, the precipitations go completely back into solution. And with the high carbonate, with the high pH, they don't. Because some chemists in the US said this is only if you dose the calcium carbonate, the sodium, the bicarbonate into the water, you will creating hydroxide. It is right, but you also create carbonates. And this is proved and well shown, like we did in the video, and I dropped some dots of acid of the precipitation, you can see it. And these precipitation creating the base for cyanobacteria, as example, because they can get later then, the pH go down a little bit, and the pH go down in the sand, on the rocks, and releasing then the phosphates back and the trace elements back. And that's why the corals, they never grow good. They have too much nutrients, too much trace elements in, so the pH go down, and then happens that more will be released into the water, which is an over-fertilization for the corals, which is then creating the old tank syndrome or some lazy ass reefer syndrome, whatever, which only means do the water change, clean the bottom all the time to remove all the precipitations. And it was necessary because we're creating these precipitations.
But even that phosphate sits in an equilibrium, doesn't it, Claude? I mean, it's getting bound, but it's in an equilibrium. So when you take orthophosphate out, that's coming back out of the precipitants, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it always creating a balance depending on the phosphate. That's also, you can see every day on your reef tank, if you check the PO4 in the morning, where the pH is a little bit lower, and you see it at the evening, where the pH, in the morning, the pH is higher due to the lower pH. The PO4 is higher due to lower pH. At the evening, the PO4 is lower due to high pH.
Yes.
And that shows you the difference and the action between the water and the surface. And if you look on my other video where we're explaining a little bit about surfaces and how big the surfaces are in a reef tank, not in a reef in the world, in the sea. A standard reef tank with about 500 liters, they have a surface of a soccer field and way more active surface if you make everything flat. So that means, in fact, we have an aquarium which has 2-3 millimeters water, and space and a surface, and that's why the surface had that big influence on the water chemistry in an aquarium. Because we always turn the water around. It's not in the sea. In the sea comes a wave. They have 10 billion liters of water change within of 10 seconds. And what happens? The next wave bring you food and take the shit away, and it comes in 10,000 years, maybe come back.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a total difference. It's living in a 5-star hotel in the edge of a mountain, you can get old, but not in a
And
slum.
important to keep a control of your calcium levels, right? To prevent that from happening. So
yeah, but it helps nothing when your pH go down, and if nutrients go too high, or you have too high calcium and creatine precipitations on another way. So these are always a problem for the reef aquarium. The goal must be that we don't have them, which is impossible because also in the sea we have them massive. So only the kinetic energy from pumps can bring calcium carbonate down out of the water. That's why in our lab, we showed the salinity line. And the salinity line on the ICP test is the optimum, the best level to have the greatest stability of the water.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. What was I going to ask you? We've not mentioned anything about carbonic acid.
No, but you can now.
Okay. So when I really started studying carbonic acid, I was amazed at how little we talk, or how wrong sometimes the advice is, in the hobby. When you start looking at the oceans, they are the big sink for carbon dioxide. When you put carbon dioxide into water, you form carbonic acid, right? So when we dose bicarbonate in a big quantity, some of that bicarbonate, particularly when it's at a low pH, is going straight towards production of bicarbonate, of carbonic acid. Sorry, somebody's taken over the screen here. Why can't I see you, Claude?
I'm here. I can see you.
Who's Samsung? There we go. That's better. Yeah, so it's the carbonic acid, which is, I think, very, very interesting. So the fact that you can't measure it on a drop-by-drop test kit, but when we deliver the bolus to the tank, you're creating a small amount of carbonate when the pH is low. You're increasing the amount of bicarbonate, but you're also increasing the amount of carbonic acid. And the way I like to think about that carbonic acid, it's a battery. It's like nearly storing up alkalinity energy, if you like, that can be converted back later into bicarbonate.
It is alkalinity.
This is alkalinity. But when we measure alkalinity with a test kit, we're not measuring that carbonic acid.
Yes, we do. We do that.
How?
Because due to the change between the things there, with the test kit, what we have, we detect every alkalinity. What you don't test is if the small particles, the small precipitation stuff, and that stuff which turns around. That is maybe difficult on that way. That could be the reason why some tests shows that. But you see it on the graphs with the automatic testers, that the way how the pH go down, the way how it goes down looks really nice. And you can recalculate that what we do with in the lab. That's why we sit today here. I can recalculate it on a proper way. So and you know one thing is there, because maybe we have to say this. If you want to find out when and why, the really specific reason is why the H plus goes back and forward. It's you have to go to the physics of these thermodynamic physics. And several times I tried to go deeper into the alkalinity system of seawater. And it starts, which they explain you that we have 36 different alkalinity models in seawater. And every of them affects the next.
Yep.
So,
but you're getting into proper PhD level chemistry here. That's complex stuff.
It is really, I must really see where is my point where I need to understand that I'm not the brightest star in that not in this case. Surely you can learn that. I think it's not impossible, but you have to focus only. And in my opinion, meanwhile, the alkalinity in seawater is a own thing for study. You don't
Mm,
need all the other water levels. You only need that. And why and when it changes there. I go a little bit deeper. I find out that there's only is always an effect from which is goes 14 times faster into the CO2, 1 times less to the other side. But we go far too deep into a chemistry which is theoretical, because even then in a reef tank, it will not be 100%, which is written in the book, because we have the surface, we have the bacteria, we have the needs of the corals, we have the
mm,
photosynthetic, which have a huge effect for the aquarium at the moment. And so I don't know if it's really necessary to understand what happens on the atomic base or whatever things. So the good thing is that you're explaining very good for me the feeling if I put the powder in, I have a mass. It's
mm.
not it's not a little bit of water. It has not to change from the hydroxide over different acids, something like that. And it was all the time when I worked with that, my feeling was I have the best ability in alkalinity when I use that. That was the reason why I decided to do that. It was way more emotional thing and a
Mm.
feeling thing as at the beginning, a knowing thing.
Yep.
And even if I understand today how alkalinity works, and if I can read it, and I read it in a book, and I say, yes, okay, it's clear, CO2 goes there, goes there. In fact, it depends on the skimmer, it depends on the surface, it depends on the
Certainly.
CO2.
Yeah.
CO2 always go in water, and CO2 always go out. Always.
And that's the bit is actually people don't realize that the air water interface is really important. It's really, really important.
That's that's
And
why it
it's
works.
bidirectional. It works both ways.
Yeah, always.
So
And
um
we have no possibility to stop that.
no,
The
that's
funny
right.
thing is that on wherever place we go on Earth, it will be always a how you call it, a relation between the CO2 in the air and the CO2 in the water.
Yeah.
Always.
The air
So,
water interface.
and does it works
Mm,
that there's a different mechanism also in our seas. We can see nowadays with the climate change. So if you
mm,
do proper calculation with the heating up of the seawater, we should have way more CO2 in the air, which we don't have.
no.
But that shows that the sea takes way more CO2 into the water and creating the bicarbonate situation, which let fall it down into the deep sea. The only way where we don't have it is under a deep of 6,000 meters, because then the pressure creating a total different effect. But till 6,000 meters, we had exactly that effect of the sea, that they take a lot of these CO2 into the water, and not only due to the photosynthesis or the biomass building of the phytoplankton. It's only the chemistry and the physical effect. So we have several effects of CO2 going into the aquarium, going back into the aquarium,
Mm,
but it's not the only point. It's happened definitely, but the whole process of stabilization, there's a lot of keys where we can play around or how we
mm.
can control it. And it's not only a CO2 scrubber or adding some carb water. So there are several things like we showed with the BOLUS system. But
Well, one of the interesting things when we were researching bolus at the beginning was um, the fact that if you underdose the bolus, the pH goes down. So it's kind of an interesting indicator that there's a lot of tanks out there that probably have low pH because they're underdosing the alkalinity. So it's something you don't really think about. That relationship between alkalinity and the pH level. It is so vital to to spend time understanding that if you're dosing the alkalinity correctly, then you should sorry, somebody's trying to call me here.
yeah, all the time now. The
Yeah.
even the paletta just
Oh, did he?
to me now. Yeah, yeah, he's asking
So
those.
yeah, that relationship between the CO2 between the alkalinity and the pH is kind of interesting.
Yeah, it is.
That's a nice machine. Oh, you got lights.
Yeah, it's starting to become the
We can't
same.
afford those in the UK.
No.
No, it's all the electricity is being used to like corals.
Ah, okay.
It's too expensive here.
So
No, but yeah, so that was one interesting factor was the um, and something I found that if your pH is dropping and your corals are looking good, then there's a good chance that you're not dosing enough alkalinity in the bolus. So you increase the bolus and you fix your pH. Um, the other interesting factor with bolus was when you know, we've got a KH director on the main system that we tested it on. When the bolus goes in, your alkalinity disappears. So you could put in 1.5 DKH of alkalinity, but it only shows as zero point 0.6, as though you've only put in zero point 0.6 DKH. And you think, well, where's that gone? Well, of course, it's been converted to carbonic acid.
a part of it.
Part of that part
And
that's
a
missing is
part of
going
it
off.
immediately turns back.
Yeah, and then as soon as the bicarbonate is being used, it's the equilibrium is rebalancing slowly, and it's bringing that carbonic acid back into bicarbonate, which is why you get this stability. And you know, it took me probably a month to really get my head around what was happening there. You know, there's a lot of reading and trying to understand exactly where's this alkalinity disappearing to, but then it comes back at the end of the day. Of course, it's the carbonic acid. So
It is
yeah,
not
it's
in,
very interesting.
it is not go into the fracs within of 2 seconds. So
It is what?
it is not going directly into the frac size. So that's a bit the problem. That would be.
No, 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 no. I wish it would, but
We have a question from Roris Reef there. Doug,
oh,
I would be interesting to hear you explain the other benefits of dosing the carbonate in one shot regarding the halogens and the traces
uh-huh,
that are included into the carbonate mix.
yes.
So,
So this, do you
yeah,
want to do it or me?
no, you're the guest. You can speak to.
So one of the very important factors I think with bolus is that because you're putting a large amount of the alkalinity solution in, which has the halogens in it, you're effectively flooding fluoride, bromide, iodide into the system, and that there is a big benefit, I think, in doing that. So it's not, you know, obviously you're elevating those elements just slightly at the beginning of the day, and I think that's what brings the health benefits to the corals. So just
Remember
having
that
a
remember that we start. That's why I said maybe we should doing telling what exactly is to do with bolus to understand it. So what is the dosing, about which time we start with the lighting,
yeah,
and
okay.
how
Should we
bad we
start with
go.
that?
So, and
Okay.
when we do it very simple, in very simple words, we dose 30 minutes before we start the light, the whole amount of alkalinity by the carbonate solution, what we need over the whole day. We don't
Yes.
dose any other dosing. Whatever happens with the alkalinity during the day, we don't do that. We dose once. Because we know how many alkalinity we need, we dose every morning. So in our farm, it's every morning at 7 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
At 7:30, we start a light with no ramp. So within of 2 to 5 minutes, we going up to 120% of the light we usually use. So 20% more, we give a full light shot. The point is we want to give a full power on the photosynthesis. We can do that because with the dosing of the alkalinity, we have a high pH, we have a lot of CO2 and carbonic acid in the water together at the same time, which is not normal for them, because normally when we have a high amount of acid in the water, we have a low pH, but in this case, we have a high pH. And so the enzyme effect is great. They can do a really good photosynthetic, taking a lot of energy. Then after 2 hours, we raising up the lights on the 100%, like the normal average lights amount what we use. And then we, after 5.5 hours, we go deeply down till to the evening, not longer than 11 hours. That's what
Mm-hmm.
we do in our farms. Some people testing around not the 2 hours. They work with 30 minutes, 1 hour. We found out that the best tableau effect we have when we put 20% higher light as we had before.
Yes.
Till to 2 hours and then go down to 3 hours. Photosynthetic effect is about 5.5 hours. And then we go back. But no REM time in the morning. So the sense behind is now, look, what happens in the sea? In the sea happens something which we totally don't do here. Usually the corals, they eat at night. They have the main food they're getting from night. So a lot of algae coming up, bacteria is coming up. The LPS eating shrimps, worms, crabs, whatever, in a huge amount. And what they eat then? When they eat phytoplankton, they eat and algae, they eat a lot of iodine and fluorine and bromine because it is concentrated in the food. It is way higher than in the water around. These companies today telling you that we have to follow the water, the amount of elements which are into the water going out into the sea and do tests. They don't test it at night, included the food. But they eat the whole night. They are full open, and everybody, if you knows the night dive, the night dive films, how you see how they catch and prey everything. So at the morning before the photosynthesis starts, they are full of particles because shrimps and stuff eating biofilm. They have tons of 1,000 times, 10,000 times higher trace elements amount. The algae are full of halogens because they absorb it to their grow when they grow. As you know, as phytoplankton carry all the stuff which you give for food. And so when then the sun comes in the sea quite fast. At the moment they have the right angle, the light goes up, and it's a strong light. It's not that a little bit what we have today, which we call a strong light. So in some reef areas, till to 5 meters depth, we have about 150,000 lux, which is amazing. You cannot see your own metal halide if the sun goes up. I'm sorry, but then they can start a photosynthesis because inside they have a lot of particles that are a lot of calcium carbonate particles. They have a lot of food and they have a lot of trace elements. And that's why the BOLUS system at the beginning, dosing the amount of a lot of trace elements is the key benefit for them to starting the photosynthesis. Because we didn't feed them during night. Nobody do that. So
with dilute it, we can now.
Yeah, should be. At the end, you can do that, but in fact, we are not able to provide that kind of food over that time and that amount like the sea done. That's also the reason why we can keep only a few corals, the hardest one, and it looks not like a healthy reef, which every square inch is completely full, covered with sponges and all the NPS corals. That's the reason for it. So, but the system is the same. Also, our Zuxantel corals, they eat and they take and they prey and they catch a lot of from bacteria to bigger animals. This is BOLUS. At the end, is BOLUS that we bring everything in the morning that they can do a right photosynthetic, like we explained now 2 or 3 times. So the only thing what we dose is the alkalinity powder, included the traces. That's why we stated do that with the Balling Light stuff, because if you don't do that and you have some 2-part stuff or some bad stuff, you have the problem that you don't have the protecting trace elements inside, and then you push a lot of lights on it. This can really harm the corals. That's why it's stated also in the manuals. Please, we test it and we do the system for the Balling Light stuff, because this is really unique, the kind of elements which are in, and that's why we know it's working and it's tested in the farms and in about 50 different people's aquarium, which are from young to old over the last, I think, 1 year now. Yeah, quite. Yeah, quite.
More than a year, more than that.
So that's from Rorris Reef. That's the sense behind that what we done, that the pH we're raising up, that the stability coming back, that was clear because it's written down since 20 years. But the effect, what we find out, which 20 years was not clear, was that when we raise up the light at the beginning, we're starting to getting a type of a tableau effect.
Yep.
a very unique situation, and that was able to the modern technology with the alkalinity testers, that we find out, hey, why the heck the pH and the CO2 and the alkalinity keeps straight on line. The first time when we see that, we thought it was a mistake, because I thought it goes up, CO2 go up, and it will go down. That's what we thought. And it happens when we have too less light. As soon as we go up with the light, we got this tableau effect. Then we let try a lot of people that, and it shows that the most people, it shows the effect. Then we ask where we don't have the effect of the tableau thing. And then we find out they're using high pH, high concentrate solution, which are
Yeah.
also on the market. There, it happens not at the beginning. Later, then they need later till to get to this tableau effect. And it was, we had long discussions, hours by hours. We have discussions about it. So what the heck happens there? So you said very simple, yeah, the equilibrium and the effect, there was a destroyed. So the acid battery was, the alkalinity battery was destroyed, and it has to repair. And I said, we cannot tell the people that the water is broken and we have to repair it or to fix it like in a car garage. At the end, your words were right. So it makes my picture clean that there is a difference. And it was clear to see at all testers that who has the using the bicarbonates in dosing the whole day, even with the carg reactors and the carg water together, had immediately after short time the tableau effect. These people only the carbonate, only the sodium carbonate dosing, the high pH dosing, and the carg water, they don't. And that was really to see inside this test. And I'm 100% sure if that method more people will done, we will have very often the questions of some people asking then in the forums, because not reading the manual, you know it, why this doesn't work at my place. So, and it will also become a little bit difficult for us to say always, yeah, because that is because you dose that. I think it's the history of the tank and the way how everything was dosed, creating the issues more or less.
But I've had customers that have fixed their tanks by putting bolus on. So where they had problems before with pH or they couldn't get stability.
Yeah, me also. I had some with big problems, some were really nice tanks, which I don't think that we could make it better.
Yeah.
But they say, all of them say today, yeah. Because I asked, would you go back?
No. So maybe it's difficult for people to visualize why we're talking about all this stuff. What is in it for the customer? What's in it for the reef keeper? Okay. And I've thought about this a lot. So
healthy course, healthy people. Happy course,
happy people and easy, making it easy.
Yeah.
Right? But let's go to the next level down. What are people trying to do? People understand that they want a higher pH. So they're going towards a high pH dosing solution, thinking that's going to help them. They're going to Kalkwasser, or trying, CO2 scrubbing, or all of these, techniques of trying to raise the pH.
Yeah.
When actually the bolus will raise the pH for you. So we can eliminate Kalkwasser, high pH solutions that all have side effects, and nobody talks about these side effects. So there are very, very few. There are very few side effects when we use the bolus system. Very few compared to the others. The other advantage is we're getting, when you dose that bolus, you're raising the pH and you're allowing the corals to then take over with the pH development. So the raising the lights or increasing the amount of light by bringing that all the components up and the pH up is allowing the corals to take over and then start to grow and photosynthesize properly. The factor is here that what was I trying to say? Lost my train of thought. So we talked about the pH going up. Yes, that was it. The precision. So all of the other systems out there are imprecise. They don't give you that level of precision. You know, it's funny, we send off ICPs now. Things are measured in parts per billion. You know, parts per trillion in some cases is coming, maybe. Um, but parts per billion, and yet we're using technologies which or systems techniques which are really imprecise. So when we start dosing a hydroxide, what's that doing? Well, it's converting some of the CO2 into a carbonate. Some of that carbonate is going to precipitate. It's going to take fluoride with it. It's going to take organics with it. It's going to take some phosphate with it.
And the other trace element.
And then the other trace elements. So what we're doing is solving one problem, but we're creating five others.
Yeah, sure.
And it doesn't matter if it's Kalkwasser or if it's a high pH solution, you're always going to have that problem. By having the lowest form of precipitation, by using the boiling light bicarbonate, we're getting a level of precision that matches what we're doing with the ICP, because we got very little interference. We can be very precise about what we're dosing. We can dose the calcium where we're not raising the calcium like crazy. I mean, we all look at ICPs with people dosing Kalkwasser, for example. You end up with crazy movements in the calcium, which is far more important, I think, to keep your calcium stable than your alkalinity stable.
Yeah,
In
absolutely.
my view. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I'm not
so
a friend
so
of this. That's why I always say
so what are we solving here? We're solving a high pH issue, raising the pH. We're energizing the corals. So we're bringing the chemistry around the coral, if you like, to help it to thrive. It's really bringing some conditions that are going to help the coral to grow. We are going to also have an amazing amount of control over, you know, the trace elements, over the calcium dosing and all of the levels, so that we don't have this imprecise system that we could have, you know, with other methods. That to me is the most exciting part of it. We're solving all the problems without the side effects.
You know what we also do? What
Go
you
on.
now? A higher grow means that corals go into a grow metabolism
Uh-huh.
and not in a keeping metabolism. And you can compare it with humans. When we are young, 2, 3, 4 years old, and every dad outside will know that. It's
Mm.
incredible what little kids can eat. And it's
Yeah.
not incredible what they make for poo, amount of poo. You always think you have 2, 3 other people in the house, which has about 100 kilos, because you don't believe that piece of shit come out of this small. And it happens 100%. Every dad know that and say, yes, I was how it comes. So,
Yeah.
but if you compare how much a kid is eating,
Yeah.
and you compare it with their weight, and now
Yeah.
you put your weight and you try to eat that, you will not survive for more than half a year.
Yeah.
You'll die on that, because it will kill you. These
Yeah.
amounts for kids, it does nothing, and for growing corals, it takes so much energy and so much nutrient out of the tank that
Good
you
point.
have
Yeah.
to dose it. You can do it over food. You can do it over
Yeah.
whatever situation. That does not matter. But the point is, it's way more easy to control the tank if you go always on limitation. That's
Yeah.
also why how Balling is creating. The Balling is, in fact, and I cannot say this really well, in fact, Balling is creating that you go into a limitation, because these animals can handle limitations very easily. They are made for this because they're living in the
Mm.
sea where there's no nutrients.
Mm.
What they cannot handle, like also plants, every farmer know that. If you give a plant a little bit too much nutrients, they will die. That's the
Mm.
worst case. What can happen? Over fertilizing is the worst case. And exactly that's what we do. The problem is we don't do it immediately. We do it
Mm.
over the time. So we're producing the depot effect. The depot effect has an influence to all the cores. We have an all-time over fertilizer for the cores. That's why we lost them also. That allows the bacteria, the pathogenic bacteria, which are in the core, on the core, in the holobiont, in the microbiont, if they have more energy, they will win the fight over the day. So the core is starting slowly to bleaching or getting some other illnesses. And when we look to them, we find very often these green algae with the cyanobacteria growing into the skeleton. We find them, and we find them on all corals which don't grow proper. So when they stay half a year, due to whatever reasons they do it, a wrong transport or bad water or whatever, we immediately find that situation. The next big advantages is that I have really a lot of tests here and a lot of numbers from all countries in the world. Altogether, over 180,000 tests now, which we use in our artificial intelligence or in our data system, which we use to make the product. So what I see as sample is that different countries have different amount of dinoflagellate issues of these and the things. So, and not every illness is spreading around in whole over Europe. So sometimes it stays in one country, then it goes up and it stops. But something which is really to see is that we have in Germany way less dinoflagellate infection as we have in the UK, way less. So when I go now only see the average amount of halogens into the water in the UK compared to Germany, then I see that there's way lower and sometimes really weird situations. Same in the US, you see it also. And it is clear because the Balling light system with the dosing together, the elements together in, which is developed so long now, which is the first primary care system which was on the market, and the light comes directly after it. After then 10 years ago, we see with the ICP, oh, we have to change some of the recipes because before it was feeling, then we have knowledge. So, we have a way higher amount of dosing of these different type of halogens, and all these tanks which have these relations, which have enough amount of molybdenum, it's the right
molybdenum, yeah,
exactly, and elements like zinc and fluorine and bromine, whatever, has not the problems with the dinoflagellate infections like we have there. Every reef tank, and many greetings to Mac, which do the dinoflagellate group, we explain there so often time why this happens, that this is a light and the element problem. It has nothing to do with high PO4, less PO4. In over 97% of all the cases we get is immediately on the ICP to see what's going on. It's too less of that. And why? Because UK follow more the US American way, those two-part.
Well, we're kind of halfway.
Yeah.
We're half and half. There's more people in the UK trying to do 2 or 3 part and calc, for example.
But you can see, I have the data here. I can see it. I use it for our products, definitely, which is a great benefit what we have, definitely. I can really tell you, and even when we see now all the ICP from the US and other countries dosing this only 2-part, they coming till to a certain point, and after that the issue starting. And I know what is sold in these different type of countries, and I know the mixtures, and I can tell you it is impossible to create without knowing, without getting into the hobby very deep, without have a knowledge. Even if you see these few type of aquariums in the US, which are really great, so where we look for it, this market is 10 times bigger than Europe, and we see a lower amount of really great aquariums as we have in Europe, myself. And all these people who have the right aquarium, so who we look always and say, this is the goal, there we want to go. They're very disciplined. They take care of all the pH, they take care of the cleaning, they take care of the good quality of salts, and they all dose the things they need because they find out by feeling or by ICP. And all the others which don't do that, they have the problem. And you can see it on quite every normal standard aquarium with the dinoflagellates. You can look there, and it's only a question which type of dinoflagellates you have, depending on which type of corals you have there, and how you get rid of them. So that's a little bit certain things. And you don't need a specific stuff like Dinoix or something like that in front. At front, you have to bring the water to good level. And then maybe it is helpful with the product to have there. And I explained it so often, and every time, where if somebody asked, it is only look on no, the product doesn't work, or no, the water parameters has nothing to do with that. The light had nothing to do with that. But it is always the same aquarium. Not much stocked, old rocks, full of light on it, and then no quite dosing. pH goes up and down, and nobody's looking on the pH going there. They all now today, they look for iodine, they look for rubidium, they look for selenium, which is not important because it is in the salt, it is in the food to solve such problems.
Mm.
This is something for people who wants to create the yellow dot on the aquaphor, or to want to create a little better shine, a more metallic look. Then we talk about rubidium, then we talk about selenium and this type of elements, but not when we have such huge problems in the tank. And these bolus helps them definitely, because due to that situation, you have these protecting agents, which I call them the halogens. They not only have effects on the point that they have a specific enzymatic usage, they have also a protecting agent. That's why we use them in
Toothpaste.
toothpaste. And we know today that fluorine and bromine are working against bacteria, working against algae growth. That's why we have them in. They are protecting, like you told. And not only helpful for the corals, they protect them also from these problems for too much bacterial growth, too much thing, and keeps the coral healthy. And that's the reason why we dose it on that way.
So you've not announced who's doing the US ICP support, have you?
I think it's in the lab yet, but we don't officially do it because the stuff is coming back from holiday, so we do it now shortly. I think.
No, I mean you've not announced who's the ICP advisor for the US.
You mean the consultant?
Yes, me.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, consultant. Yes.
This guy there.
Yeah.
It's maybe above me. It's maybe on the right or the left side. I don't know.
Yeah,
Look it on the screen.
The big red one.
Maybe it's under me. It's possible also. He's one of the first of our US consultant for the ICP. So you can contact him even from the UK there. We have the possibility there to support you with your issues and problems step by step. And I will be soon in the US and do some more trainings with some other stores there that you can be safe, that you speak with people who has a really deep knowledge about how to do an interpretation of an ICP. The key is not the machine and the people working there, which you see behind. There is a main key, but the real reason to work proper with ICP and to have a knowledge is that you have experienced people which stay more than 10 years in the business or are really great in that what they do, like good knowledge about how to grow SPS or something like that. They know and they have all the information about the lab, about the different products, so how they work, what they have for effect. And that's that you can see if you go on the lab.faunamarine.de and you choose there, you can choose by country your lab consultant. And for the UK and also for the USA, we have actually DAC. But also if you live in Canada, also if you live in Spain or in wherever, you can choose these guys. That's not the problem at all. I said to you, it's the best to choose somebody which is in your country so that they can forward you with the products you need. For UK and US, it's everything is regulated that you can get the products and that you can get the support. So we have the same language. So that's why I highly recommend these guys, because I cannot do the job alone the whole day. And that's why I need such really great people and knowledge people like Doug. And he really was very successful in, I think, the first day alone, we had 5-6 hours. And we are daily in contact if we have new information, like if a typical salt have some issues, why happens with the lower sulfur at the moment, where it could come from. So they have all this information, which we find out in the lab way earlier, as it's stated outside.
So I've seen maybe 200 ICPs, I guess, from the US now. And there is a big difference between the US ICPs and the UK ICPs.
It's amazing, the difference.
Amazing difference.
not a little bit. It's crazy.
No. And what I'll say to my American cousins is you need to try the bolus method. I think many of the problems that I see on those ICPs will be fixed almost immediately if you move to the bolus method.
Yeah,
Um,
but also, I think we should say that if you start with the 800 calcium, and there we have to take care that,
zero point 0.4 fluoride.
yeah,
Yeah.
or 4.0 fluoride. I had ones with 7 fluoride, and before there, I told you
7.
7, more than 7. I go into the lab and say, "Hey, girls, come on, it must
No way.
no
7.
way." So
And stuff was alive?
yeah,
Really?
yes, I know
Oh,
why. Also, it also why there was a lot.
vanadium. High
The
vanadium.
level was about over 100, so it should
Whoa.
protect it. I was 100% sure everything is dead,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
then I see all the other levels also, and he said me that the tank is very old, so it seems that he raising up over a long time. He said he didn't. I've still today no idea how it comes, but it was correct. So after changes, it goes down, and we tested. It was really correct.
I'd one with 1,500 calcium the other day.
Yeah, yeah.
I,
Maybe it was a
I
product.
don't even know how that's possible.
Maybe it was a product. Some people sending product in
It could be. Yeah, yeah.
to test. So, but let us stay on bolus. So
Yeah.
how we can explain bolus in the short words. So once again, all what you need, we take the Balling Light carbonate, which
Hmm.
is based on sodium bicarbonate solution, not on carbonate, not on any other.
Don't use carbonate. You'll ruin your tank.
Yeah, in this case, you ruin your tank, definitely.
You
Yeah.
completely ruin it.
So, um, how you know it? It's very simple. The bicarbonate has an advantages of the pH and working proper for the course. He had disadvantages. Then you cannot put that much amount in a bottle. So the bicarbonate you can dilute depending a little bit on the mixture around 90 to 100 grams maximum by liter, which is 0.26 gallons. So on the carbonate, you can dilute about 220 grams. So nearby the doubled 2.2 effect you can dose there.
Hmm.
That's why the high pH concentrate bottles or liquids or small powders always are a very little amount. And you don't need to mix them long, and then you can dose with 10 or 50 milliliters. At the end, you dose the same amount on carbonate if you dose carbonate or bicarbonates. The only thing is that you need more water if you dose it by carbonates like in the Balling Light methods. That's why we need the 5-liter cans. It is way less than the calcium hydroxide stuff, but it's not that less than on the other side. On the other side, the calcium solution, mostly on the Balling Light, are more concentrated because the calcium we can do more concentration because when you dose it, you don't have any precipitations. You have the precipitations if you dose start with the bicarbonates. We use the bicarbonates due to this very unique effect on pH when you dose it. And I can understand that if you explain to people that first what happens if you dose that the pH go down, everybody says, this is not what we want. Yes, you want it. Because in this process, everything goes in solution. If you dose the bicarbonate in, you also have some precipitations, but they look totally different. They're very, very small, very fine particles, totally different to the bicarbonates. Bicarbonates are creating big, due to the high pH, creating big, like
Crystals.
particles, flakes, like that. The other one, and you will show that on a YouTube video. I hope it's next week will be ready or in a few days. You have a very small one, and due to the effect of the CO2 and the carbonic acid, they go immediately in solution, and then the pH raise slowly up, but then it's mixed in the tank, and you will not have the precipitations in that amount.
And it stays.
And
That's the key, is it stays.
Yeah.
If you dose a high pH solution like a carbonate or a hydroxide, you have to constantly really be dosing it to try and maintain the pH level.
And that you can see it by dosing, that you have these huge wide effects on
Yeah,
water and on the other one, and this less
exactly.
way, way, way lower on the bicarbonate. And this
Yep.
is the proof how you can see it. If you cut off the water, no stream, and you dose then you can see the differences. And you can see it on the bicarbonate immediately. It goes in and it makes, and
Yep.
then it's gone. And if you
Yep.
do that with the carbonate, everything falls down. It happens also if you give it to a high stream level. The only difference is that you don't see it. And it's
Mm.
definitely carbonate. Everybody can test it yourself. If you do that with your water, you filter it up with a coffee filter and you put acid on it, you immediately see that it's starting to bubbling. And
Yep.
if acid and bubbles, it's carbonate.
Yep.
It's not hydroxide. It's impossible. Hydroxide will not bubbling.
No.
So it's chemistry from the six.
We've got a question here from Ellis.
Yes, I will go immediately to the questions. So, and whatever is said in the marketing, something else, carbonate is carbonate in the chemical effect, and bicarbonate is bicarbonate in the chemical effect. Nobody can change that. The quality of the bicarbonates, the ingredients of the bicarbonates, and the added trace elements to make the system properly works and have the effect on the photosynthesis and on the energy, what the corals get. This is totally different. This is why we said go to the Balling Lights, because there you have Balling Lights, and because there you have everything in. And it looks for many carbonate you dose, but it's not the kind that you do stock solution, which is lower concentrate than on the carbonate based.
Mm-hmm.
So Alice, thanks a lot for your questions. I will state here, is there going to be some kind of manual on how to start and maintain the bolus method? It is a pH monitoring system necessary. So yes, the manuals are quite ready. We just bring them in a good design in the HDU. We will do the last reading and give it to all the testers if there are some questions there which they want to have in the manual. We will surely do way more videos and live streaming, and maybe the next time in YouTube when we find out why it doesn't work today. And we creating a German video, and we also creating a UK video on the next visit when I come to UK to explain everything detailed and deep. And we will also do a very short start manual with 5-6 points. Overall, the principle of the bolus is we dose the alkalinity, which is needed over the whole day, over a bicarbonate method like Balling Light with tray 3. And one point, half an hour before we start the lights, we start a light without a ramp. We give the first 2 hours 20% more light, reduce then to 100%, and going 11 hours. And we test it. The best is after the testing, after the start, 3, 4, 5 days, usually it works till you get the stability in. We test 1 time a day, we test the alkalinity. Later, you can do that every 3 days, because then you find out how is your need. And due to the stability of the system, you know exactly 5 days long, I need 1.5. This is the amount I have to dose, and it's enough then later if you test every 3 or 4 days. If you want to use pH monitoring and alkalinity monitoring, you can do that, definitely. Monitoring is always good. What I tell you, which no professional farmer will do, let a machine dosing automatically. I can tell you the 30% of all our turnaround we're gaining to that type of machine. I'm always happy when a machine comes out. I'm not happy because coral dying. That makes me sad. But at the end, we know exactly how smarter they said the machines are, how more we have to do to save the tanks. This is what I really can tell you. This is the experience we have actually about 21,000 customers, and everybody who tried to do it automatically, it works. It works at the beginning. I cannot say something, but then the pH probes gets a failure. A snail wants to lay their eggs exactly on the diaphragma, or they burn down, or we have an power outlet, something like that. I can tell you let the machine work, let the machine say how much you want to dose, but programming that always that you say yes and no, that you have it a little bit in mind. Oh, today 5 liters of dosing could be a little bit too much. Don't dose it. So the systems are stable. They don't change the needs usually in that high amounts that you have waste springs, but don't trust these machines overall, really.
I say it's like trying to fly a plane on one gauge. These alkalinity machines, you're affecting all of the chemistry just for one parameter. I mean, that's crazy. So
yes, and you know that the machines are, maybe, and I can say that because I don't sell this type of machines. This type of machines, which we get actually, which mostly coming from China and from other places, for the material, for the electronic, for the dosing pumps, so everything which is there in the market is not used more than 10% in material costs. So if it's sold here for $600, it's not more than 50, $60 for the housing, for the machinery, for the development, for everything. So we don't talk about machines which are really, which have a value. These machines, what you see here in the lab, even only for the titration to find out how is your PSU and how is your pH and CO2, we spent mostly more than 25,000 euros only for the lab. And there is no people between there. We buy directly from the companies who build the machines and they give it to us. And only for this 3 parameters, we invest way more than 20,000 euros, 25, something like that. I think it's 22,000 pounds or dollars, and no other way. Yes, it's the same, or $27,000. And for the others also, the machine in the background you see is way over 100,000. And we really need that. And it's even then it's difficult enough to find a proper and accuracy and a precise value which you can work for. So the machines are great. I'm happy that they're available on the market, but don't trust them for dosing. This is what I
we've not mentioned calcium and magnesium.
Yeah, how we dose it, tell me.
So calcium,
maybe you
I dose after 1 hour after the bolus, and I do it in every hour of the photo period. So whether you do it 8 hours, 9 hours, 10 hours, every hour, you take your calcium dose, divide it up by, say, 10, but you make sure that you dose that at least 1 hour after the bolus. And don't dose the calcium during the night. Same with the magnesium.
That what we do also. Yeah, magnesium we don't dose here because we usually don't need them because we make the water change with the professional sea salt. And so I have not, in some aquariums when you have a lot of multipores like there, we have a little bit more magnesium need, but it mostly it's not under 1,300, 1,350. The magnesium has a little bit a good effect of stability for these BOLUS system, but for all systems. So in this case, we recommend to go around 1,350 to 1,400. It's a good way. Everything between 1,300 and 1,400 is okay for the BOLUS method. You need really a little bit to find out in which these parameters is your sweet spot, which is your most stability. That could be a little bit different depending on each aquarium. And what you have to look for very carefully is the salinity. If you have today an ICP test, there's not very often clear marked how is the relation to 35 salinity. So the calcium and the magnesium could be higher or lower depending on your salinity level. So you have to check where's the relation. On the Fauna Marin one, if you go on the second time, where the macro elements on the right side, it's stated relative to 35 PSU, your level would be. So let us make an example. If you have 37 salinity and it's stated that you have a calcium of 465, if you go then to the relativity, means that if you have a lower salt amount into the water, is then only 435, 38. That means your calcium is okay. You don't need to reduce the calcium. You only need to reduce the salinity. And to have the salinity correct and the macro elements correct means the magnesium, the calcium, and some proper nutrients level, which means not very low, which means that it's quite in a normal way. Then it's very easy to start the bolus method because then you have not a lot to repair. You can start immediately, gaining the effect which we discussed today here.
And it's surprising how many ICPs don't have the correct salinity.
In UK, I must check it. It gives it a level, but in UK, I think it was over 62% or around 60%. In Germany, we are around 38%.
Yeah, but there's still 40% of people haven't got the right salinity.
Yeah, even here with all machineries and stuff.
Yeah.
The right is a little bit the thing, you know, some people stated 33 is also correct, which is at the end. But sometimes there's the discussions about we detect 33, they detect 35. So who's detecting right? And, you know, between the density, between the PSU, between the calculation could be a difference by 1.
I'm going to steal one of your statements. The corals don't lie.
Yeah.
So the corals never lie. So I've always found that the 35 ppt, the corals are happier.
Yeah.
That's my experience.
I said usually for the people, I said between 34 to 35. And the middle stated is 34.5 to 35. We run here mostly 34.8 to 35. That's our level.
So what's your message to the people, Claude, about the bolus method? What's the good reason that they should run it in a simple sentence?
I love to have happy corals, so that's the point. So, you know, my father learned me happy wife, happy life. That's correct, definitely. But he forgot to mention that I'm unlucky when my corals are not happy, and it makes no sense to come home.
He didn't factor that one in the equation. Okay.
It was for me. It was for me definitely surprising, the effect. Before we said this, I would say, yeah, it was different the years before, but you know that maybe the mistake what every professional has done, he starts a little bit to be too safe of the development he made, and I definitely go into this trap. I'm not sorry for that because everybody do that at the end. And I remember me all the time. It's nice that we have all the machines. It's a great tool and we learned so much. But like you say, corals don't lie. And I was always good when I follow my instinct. And after we have these first talks, you know, sometimes you find something out. You have no proof yet. But you say, oh, fuck, this is the way we have to go. This is... shit, why I don't, you know.
Yeah.
That must be a joke. Say, so why we leave that? And really, after our first talk, the first time, I really thought about why the heck I buy these dosing pumps. I know now why, but it was only a technical and a lazy thing. There's nothing to do that I forget to thought about, okay, what happens when I dose over the pumps in chemistry things, which I normally do all the time. Every time when I make a product, something like that, I thought about, okay, what's going on if? What happens if? What happens if? What can be the result if? That's the whole day in my head. But there, I know, give it to the dosing pump, stability is good. Or whatever I think. I really don't know. And it comes a little bit back, you know. So as I see, you don't see the forest of all the trees. So and maybe that was the reason for me for that. And after lights up, it is, I cannot tell you. At the end, like I said, I don't want to talk about it because it is a little bit frustrating. You do it before, right? You had a success, you change it, you have the feeling that it's wrong and you don't change anything over years.
Yeah.
and you don't know why. And yeah, it has happened. I must say this officially that definitely it was a mistake.
Mm.
We changed our system. We have two systems which we let run under the normal things. We changed three systems in the farm because we still work out now. I want to work out now how is the long-term effect, how was the creating the usage of the elements. We have some data of that over the years, so we will not publish it now. It comes too much into the deep. And this will have definitely an effect on the products in future. So to explain to people more and more the benefit about this, the bicarbonate, which was for us clear that we know that we take it. That's why we don't go the way following, don't do water change and don't follow these marketing things, because it was the feeling for us, if we do that, we will have a problem with our farms. And we are one of the only companies in the world who have this type of production, who have this type of lab and the coral farm together. So we have really every day the proof. We test every day the farm there,
Sure.
every day an ICP since years now. So I think there were only 15,000 tests only in the farm, and I have a lot of data. And I can tell you that was sometimes it's really surprising, and things which we thought over years, which was hammered down, which was 100% going this way. This is true. The ICP and the data shows, no, it's not. Some others were perfect, and we had a good feeling to do that. So for us, the ICP is not only that we can provide the test and can provide the service. For developing the products, I had since Baling Light is now, we created, it was 95, 96 when we started first. So it's over 25 years old, and I had not this increasement in developing as in the last five years. It's still the same powder, it's still the bottles, but the bottles, the recipe, the way, which type of elements we use, and which combination we use them. The type of salts, we could control the salts way better. We could control the vitamin, the part what we add in. We could control here in the lab, and that changes the recipe a lot. And if you see on some tanks, like we have a guest there, the Olivier Schad, which is, my opinion, one of the best reefers worldwide, and others, which you see today running with the Fauna Marin stuff, it's the huge public aquariums going there, companies who have the best farms in the world, changes or since be longer than on the Fauna Marin way, even when they ride for SPS and that stuff there. Also, these big aquariums working with our ICP, working with our products like the Zoo in Bern, which was yesterday. And because they see when they want to create these this type of corals and this glowing of corals and growing the corals, breeding the corals there, then they go really to the Baling Light system back. Sure, they buy high amounts, so it's way cheaper as in the 1 kilo bottle, which is stay in the stores. So for the large users, you can contact always Frag Farm, and he will help you out about the professional use of all these type of products. It's not the sellable use, it's a professional line. But you can always contact Doug for this, and he will organize you everything for the UK and for the US then also. And so please feel free, choose him as a lab consulting, write him on fragfarm.uk, right?
Frag.co.uk.
You have always the
.co.uk.
extra,
Yeah.
Always the extras with the UK get.
Yeah, we do. We're complicated in the UK. Yeah.
Not
But
more as the Germans, believe me.
so
Not,
next steps, I think, we've talked a lot. There's a lot of words. I think
the manual is next week.
we've got manuals. Yeah.
And we will provide then the video, and but we will publish it on the Interzoo.
Yeah.
I pleased a little bit for the patients, because Interzoo every 2 years is really important for a lot of companies. They're all influencers of the world, from Asia to Africa, America, all over the world. We have people there. We have 2,100 exhibitors around 60 to 80,000 visitors. We have 14 huge halls, which is one of the biggest show on earth. And it's way the biggest show on earth for all which has to do with pets. So, and that's for everybody of us. We do huge investments. We show a lot of new products, which we don't talk here. Some people know, like Wybix and the other ones. And the BOLUS is one of these new things which we will publish there for the first time. But thanks to Mike Paletta, and many greetings to my friend from Pittsburgh, a great reefer. And he yesterday, he decided to, how you call it in English, chick the pea or give the thing out? That's a wording.
Oh, to shell the peas.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah,
So
to take the peas out of the pod. Yeah.
yes, so
Yes.
he's starting with the BOLUS stuff on Keith's Place. So
Yeah.
Frag Farm was the first video podcast which showed a little bit, talk a little bit about this, why we say today, let us talk a little bit more and deeper together with the famous Doug from Frag Farm. Unluckily, we cannot share our corals due to the Brexit and city situation between our two countries. And but we will be soon after in the zoo, we will visit you, and then we will have another live and do video about and some more talks about BOLUS and products, how we use it.
Sure.
So,
yeah.
thanks a lot.
Yeah, well,
You have
that's it.
something?
Well, there's one last question here from Rory. Is there a specific time of day you should be testing your alkalinity when using the BOLUS method?
So
Yes, is the answer, in my
yes,
view.
when I started, I test after 24 hours in the morning to see what is the end alkalinity, what I get. After a short time, I find out that I do it at the evening is every 24 hours in the evening. Then I
Yes.
calculate the amount, but I dose in the morning.
My preference is to test alkalinity in the evening. So you want to test it when the pH is at its highest, but actually the time isn't super important. What is important is that you're consistent, so that you test it at the same time every day. Because obviously the alkalinity reading is going to change throughout the day. So you need to have one point in time where you can compare it from one day to the next. That's my view.
Yeah. But at the beginning, I was really interesting to see how deep it is in the morning before I start to dose. So that's why we detected in the morning.
Yeah.
It was easy.
Well, I've
have
got a KH director that tests every hour.
Yeah.
And we've got graphs now for probably over a year's worth of data of exactly what BOLUS does hour to hour as we dose it. So we can see the dosing amount.
I have the Aquavis there actually in the test, which is nice because we don't need any reference solution, and it will not going something back into the tank.
Yeah.
But yeah, as I said, I look in the morning value, but at the end, on a long time at the evening, it's as easy to do. And the only thing you know is how much you need in 24 hours. That's what you need to know.
Exactly. Yeah.
So what I need to say, and which we have to put into the manual also, which is not in. When you want to have alkalinity, let me say on 7.5, it means not that you start in the morning to raise up to 9.5 because you know that you're losing 2. In this case, you go there and you said, okay, I wait till I'm in the morning, then you dose till to 7.5 or nearby 8. And then you let run the system going back till the alkalinity goes back to 6 or 6.5. Over the time, it stabilized really well, but not put it on top to creating that what you want at the end of the 24 hours. That happens on some people. They said, I run on 8. Should I dose now on 10.5? I don't know. You go on 8, 8.5, and then you see what's going on at the next day. What happens in the beginning, even if you have to do the repair effect, is that you can have a relation between calcium and the alkalinity about 1 part calcium, 6 part of the carbonate solution.
Yeah.
On the most, after 1 week, 2 weeks latest, 1 week, the most going and coming back to a relation of 1 part calcium dosing and 4.5 parts of alkalinity dosing.
Mm-hmm.
Some of 5, so between 4.5 and 5. That was the absolutely most. We have 2, 3 who were a little bit higher, but the way they used bolus was shorter and they had other things dosed before. I would say a good way and a good idea is that the bolus is healthy and the tank has the right buffer capacity is if you have to dose between 1 calcium and 4 to 5 points, 5 parts of alkalinity. Then I think it's okay. If you need way more, it should like that it's still in the repair part. And on all of them, they go slightly go down. This means not that it can happen that the cord's growing faster. You need more alkalinity because the alkalinity stuff is needed, but also over the time, the amount, the relation between the two goes down. That's possible. That's what to say. And that we have to do in the graph there in the manual. Because I have this here in Germany that sometimes they want to put it on top. And that's not good if you have low pH, low PO4, and you run SBS tank with tenuous and that stuff, and you're raising up the alkalinity too high. That's not good for the SBS at all.
No, no.
So the goal for the SBS tanks is not higher than 7.5, maximum is 8.
The other thing is that changes to the bolus dose can be nearly amplified. So make the changes very small, and monitor it. So 1 to 2%, I think, as a change is more than enough normally to solve the problem. So you don't see it. You don't see it immediately.
Yeah, but you must see what can happen if people coming from other systems. So it is possible that 5% is necessary in one of the first steps, but not over the time. So give me a second. There's one guy who has the video open. Must see who it is. That's why we can hear something. So these guys.
So I'm just looking at my pH while you're doing that. 8.48. And it is quite a decent feed today as well.
Who's looking at? I don't get it.
What?
Looking?
I'm looking at my pH in the farm. 8.48. That's the other point, is that I think it's important to maintain an average of 8.3 pH.
Yeah.
Those people are trying to keep it at 8.4 as the bottom. That's no good, because you're not going to have enough carbonic acid. So I don't think it works very well if you go too far with it. So it's potential you could do that if you're maybe using a CO2 scrubber and bolus. Actually, that's an interesting point. What's your view on that? CO2 scrubber and bolus. Good idea or bad?
No, it's not a good idea.
It's not a good idea. I don't think it's a good idea.
No. That's the other benefit on these type of people who has a low pH during the winter or during other situations. A reef tank that you can avoid. You can remove. Usually, I can say you don't need any CO2 scrubber and the filters and that stuff. We have it in our range because people are asking there, but I'm not very happy because you need a lot of stuff on it. It is not sustainable, the stuff. It's a dangerous chemical. So for me, it would be way more interesting if you go to the budding light system dosing in the bolus method. Yeah. And then you don't need all the things. It's possible you need a little bit more trace elements. Then I'm happy to sell you the trace elements, but I'm not happy if we have to deal with types like these CO2 scrubber versions. And I see in a lot of tanks, they have a lot of CO2 scrubbers there and don't fix the problem at all. So only a little bit. And that shows that we have to take care of the water, of the alkalinity of the puffer system. And if you do it correctly, then we don't need that type of products and things and stuff.
So it's probably interesting to say at this point that we've talked about the buffer system, the carbonate buffer system, and I'm not sure whether it's completely clear what everybody knows what the carbonate buffer system is for, because
Explain.
we've not mentioned it, have we? I mean, but I studied the carbonate buffer system, I think, when I was 15, but in chemistry lessons, and I thought it was one of the most beautiful things ever because you've got this chemical system that is designed to absorb acids.
Yeah.
So as acids are produced by anything, any metabolism or anything that's being processed in the water is producing an acid, and the buffer system is there to absorb that acid without it changing the pH. So so when we've got low pH issues in a tank, typically it is something to do with that carbonate buffer system.
Yeah, sure.
It's that simple. So this is where I think bolus is definitely going to help a lot of people when they've got these low pH
You see
issues.
what happens in our reef tanks and of all the testers, and it's
Yeah.
and we were really curious because I think we expected more damages or issues as we later see. So I was a little bit surprised of
Yeah.
some of them was really great effects on it. Some a little bit lower, but some of these people starting with a very low amount of course, some of them had a lot of in. So every tank is a little bit different, but
Mm.
overall, there's for my testers no one there who will say no, that was no, I will go to the old way. None of them. And you save, if you like it, you save a lot of dosing pumps. So you need only one or two, that's it. And you have the trace element on it, so you don't need 4, 5, 6 trace elements, dosing pumps for whatever reason. So you can use your dosing pumps, what you have now, you can use that for maybe amino acids of food or whatever.
Mm. Definitely.
And you'll be more safe because the dosing pumps can definitely dose better, higher amounts of liquid and not very all the time small ones. So they are way
Mm.
better. Be more accurate.
So
So
when are we launching it into zoo? That's next week.
next week, we start on Tuesday. We had a lot of visitors making appointments, so from all over the world. So we let it run on our big video screens. And we make an article in our Inside magazine, which is only for the dealers. And so the distributors and the dealers will be informed first, and then we have to do the video. The German video is done, and we have to do in the UK video. So after the show, we will make an appointment in UK, visiting some customers, visiting you.
I'll find you some warm beer to drink.
No beer, come on.
Some fish and chips.
No, I will try to find these very old, very nice mill, which where I was eating. It's I think 15 years ago, where I get this absolute amazing garlic crusted lamb shoulder, and this time I will definitely say the way to go away with this peppermint sauce on that beautiful piece of meat.
Mint sauce. Yeah, yeah. You didn't
Mint
like the mint
sauce, because
sauce.
they
Yeah.
destroy with this green meat sauce the whole lamb. And but it was so amazing place, and no, have some fun, make some videos. We have also to go to Hornimans there and visit other things. So like usually the gang will go there with Alex from Abyss, maybe Florian from Shuran, a new wave will join us, maybe, I don't know yet.
Cool. Yeah.
And Toby from our videograph person who makes Sea Friendly Reef and Nature Up in the German channel, and we will go the trip to you. And
super.
So,
and that should be what, in the next 2 weeks, I think. Yeah.
I didn't have the timing yet now. So, but
Okay.
I think in the next days it will be fixed. I have to wait for Alex there. But first we have to go to Norway. To also, there's a huge conference there we have to go. We'll be invited. In the last 2 weeks, I was in 3 or 4 zoological gardens. So at the moment it's a lot to do, and the industry is the highlight. So I hope I keep healthy, because I know you stress it up, you power it up till on the point, and then If everything is done, you see the booster standing and the technique is working, you make like this and you get ill. So
Right.
yeah, we are old men, so I think we have to
We're old men. Yeah.
accept this.
Old men.
Don't go insulting mint sauce now, Boris.
Exactly.
Boris, let me explain that. It was a fantastic lamb shoulder. It was garlic roasted. They cut it little nice squares on it. It was absolutely fantastic piece of meat. Only the meat by itself. Every guy who make barbecue, everybody who loves meat and who know how to treat meat and to do the barbecue and grilling and whatever will never, never put anything like a mint sauce on such a beautiful piece of meat.
See this? Mint sauce and lamb is like fluoride and vanadium.
Alice, no, definitely. Look, I got goosebumps alone if you said that have to be together.
Yeah.
You can ask wherever you want. You can go in all over the world. A good piece of meat have pepper, salt, or maybe it's garlic roasted, or maybe it's made by barbecue. But the real good things, and it was a amazing piece. Believe me, that was a lamb. You go in and you remember the whole life of this place. So you can imagine, and go very often eating. But some places you remember the end of your life. You remember this place and that food, and that was one of these places. 1,000-year-old mill. It was in the near of Windsor. I have no more idea which
Yeah,
place
we'll
it was.
find it. We'll find
And
it.
she could get me the mint sauce on the side. I don't care. It looks nice. It was green. I give it to Jess. I was away with Jess and ITC during that time.
Uh-huh.
But she comes behind me over the shoulder. I started to eating and then make like that.
Disaster.
It's a disaster. I'm a Switzerland guy. I'm a French guy. My hobby is cooking and grilling and barbecuing and everything. So I know a little bit about what I talk because this is my job. So I need another hobby. I'm sorry. And we will not be clean. I love the UK. I love the people there. But this minso stuff is something I would.
I'm not that keen either. I'm not. I eat everything, but I'm not so keen on the mint sauce or
The
lamb, to
mince sauce
be
by
honest.
itself was great.
Hmm.
But why she puts over
But together, oh, it's the combination you don't like. Okay.
you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
that's for me like you have a great red wine and you have some Chinese people there asking for a Coke and put the Coke into the red wine. If you do that in France, they will kill you.
Oh, I had a Hungarian that used to work with me who used to do that.
You'll be out.
Yeah.
You cannot do that. If you go with business people going eating in France
Hmm.
and you do that, you lost the contract. I promise you. They
Yeah.
kick you
Oh,
out.
definitely. In
That's
France, you would definitely.
that's
Yeah. Yeah.
impossible. That's
Yeah.
the same if you go to Japan and you put the what's the green powder for the sushi, you put it into the soy sauce. So
Yeah. Oh, what's it called?
no, that's embarrassing. That's
Wasabi.
yeah, wasabi put into the soy sauce. They
Yeah.
don't get it. You're completely fool.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I like the mint toast by itself. I respect it. So that's not the point. But like I never put Coke into a nice piece of red wine. I would never put the mint toast on a roasted lamb. On a other piece of meat, okay,
Hmm.
but not on a roasted lamb shoulder. Not on this kind of roasted lamb shoulder. So I'm
Oh,
sorry.
it's noted. For when you come, it's noted. We'll make sure that doesn't
Roasted
happen.
lamb shoulder. This was a
Yeah.
mill 1,000 years old. You can ask Jess, maybe he remembers the address. It was around 30 minutes around Windsor. So,
Okay.
yeah,
I'll
a
find
great
out.
place with Windsor. And you know that we Germans, we miss our Lissy. So,
Wow.
should be time. Yeah, the Germans love the Queen. So, it
Yeah,
is
it's
a little
German
bit German,
family.
you know, that the Queen coming from
It's German family. Yeah,
German family. So,
of course.
no, the Germans love the Queen. Absolutely. The former, they exist in, I have no idea,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
the
yeah.
former. Really great person. So many thanks for all the time you
Claude,
spent.
thank you.
We will do it again soon. Hopefully then with YouTube and it's working. We'll ask our technicians how we can do that. We will recording that and we'll bring it to YouTube then later as soon as they create a little bit things. So we recorded these sections. So due to the reason that no one was seen, I hope it is okay. So if nobody says not now, we will record it in the next days.
I wonder if we could do another for the next video. We could maybe get some of the early testers of Bolus to come and talk about their
And
experience.
then we have to do in Zoom, but then we look how we can do the live over Zoom to YouTube. Maybe we do it on that way.
Maybe we could ask a
Yeah.
few of them and see. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Cool.
Thanks. Have a
Thank you
nice
very
day.
much.
Bye bye.
See you. Bye bye.